Wait,
Are you
live.
right
It's
now?
live on you. It's going live on
Oh,
YouTube. Yes.
what's the link? And I'll
It's
put it in my.
well, we are live right now. I'm here with my new friend
Oh,
Rahul. I'll send you the link right now. Actually, if you're on Twitter, I just posted it with your name at
okay,
Bearded
awesome.
Guru or whatever you are.
The bearded mystic, yeah, totally not a guru.
Excuse me. You're not a guru. You're a mystic. Okay.
Yeah,
So
and
yeah,
even that's questionable.
well, the beard is there. I mean, that's a reality. The beard is there. So yeah, you can feel free to share that link, and hopefully I get more views than usual because I don't get a lot of views normally. But I don't know if you know anything about my podcast, but it's very biographical and conversational, and I always start the same way, just by asking the guest to go back in time and talk about the early childhood, what was the home life like, and I make a special effort not to read your bio or to learn anything about you so that I can discover on the fly. It's more fun that way for me. So just talk about your upbringing and the worldview and the different paths that you may have wandered down before settling on what you believe today, okay?
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you for having me on. First of all, it's an honor, and just really growing up, we grew up in a household which kind of respected different religions. I grew up in England, so
Ah, whereabouts in
you know,
England?
in the Midlands, a little place called Staffordshire.
Ah,
Um,
I used to live in Leicester.
oh, yeah, not far, just like an hour away from where we lived in we lived in Cannock. I
Okay.
lived in Cannock,
You spent time in
and
Leicester? You had family there?
we have family there.
Of
Yeah,
course you
so
do, of course. I think it's one of the biggest East Asian populations outside of East Asia. So,
yes,
yeah.
yes, definitely. There's a lot of Asians over there, and so grew up. When we go for our temple for our satsang, that's what we call our congregations. You hear about God being formless, about God being uh, known, and that you can know it and have a connection with it, a oneness with it. And then on the other side, I used to go to school and I used to hear about the Bible, and it's a very differing version of what God is, and but it gave me insight into the fact that everyone has their own beliefs and to respect that. So that was kind of inbuilt at a young age.
What is the
Um,
exact religion you were raised with?
so we're part of a movement called the Nirgaya Mission, and it basically goes along with the Sanatana Dharma, so goes towards Hinduism and Sikhism,
Okay.
and basically is a philosophy that embraces them both. And so I have a teacher, a guru, and growing up with that was very helpful because it allows you to kind of ask questions and get answers that you're looking for, or that maybe not what you're looking for, but you end up discovering an answer that really does settle with you. And then from there, growing up, I kind of then went through this. I went to university, and you can kind of imagine like a kind of became a little bit of an atheist. So I was kind of confused. So what is God? I hear one that God is formless, and there's another one that's apparently up there in heaven. Which am I going to believe? To put it in a very general way, obviously there's a lot more nuance to the beliefs, respectfully. And then I went through this whole atheistic stage, and then um, kind of didn't want to. It wasn't that I didn't believe in God. It was I wanted to rediscover it, and from that moment, I started reading other mystics in India, other philosophers, and that got me down eventually to what really speaks to me today, which is Advaita Vedanta, which is the Hindu non-duality, uh, or shall I say, it's kind of uncompromising non-duality, and that basically is where there's only pure consciousness, and everything else is just a reflection of that pure consciousness. And yeah, and that led me to kind of like read the Upanishads and um, another text like the Bhagavad Gita. Obviously, you probably have heard of that one.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then I got married in 2016 in Toronto, so
Oh, no
not far
way.
from so not far from you, and now I have a 4 month. It's going to be 5 months in 3 days. A little son, Krish, and yeah, fatherhood has been another learning curve in a positive way. I've learned a lot about myself, and uh, I've learned a lot about how you can be really selfless, which you wouldn't be in usually. So it's added another dimension to who I am,
How
and
old are
to
you
even to
today?
me, I am 36.
Okay. Your
Yeah.
camera's frozen. I'm wondering if you need to hang up and rejoin the call quickly,
Let
or
me,
just adjust something there. Maybe something is crapping
yeah,
out.
let me check.
You
Uh,
sound good, but you're now I see your
okay.
avatar, your image of yourself.
Yeah, I've turned the camera on.
Okay,
Let me
it'll
see.
probably come back on.
Let me see. Sorry about that.
Not a problem.
Let me just actually restart it. Probably the software is being funny.
There you go.
Now
There you
I'm
go.
back. Yeah. I'm going to keep that
Yes.
on so I can see if it ever goes off. Um,
Very good.
so yeah, so that's yeah, I'm
Yeah, so I have a
36.
lot
Yeah,
to get into with the metaphysics and the philosophy behind
sure,
God, the one true God of
sure,
monotheism, and how that
sure.
compares with the one true God of monism. You know, where there's
Yes,
only God,
yes.
there's only God.
Uh,
You know,
yes.
right?
I'm
Are
glad
you?
you got it right. Yeah.
So I'm very sympathetic to monism, but I believe that monotheism is the case because I believe that you and I are two
Sure.
separate, really separate beings, and that we will, for all eternity, be entering into the life of that one consciousness, that one mind of God. We'll be entering into that life, but we will remain separate. So that's the difference between my point of view and your point of view, and we'll discuss all of that. But I have just a couple more biographical questions, if you don't mind.
Sure. Sure, sure,
So,
sure.
what's the sibling situation? How many siblings?
So yes, so siblings I have four siblings. One passed away
Oh,
when I was this was in 2013. So that was
oh,
also another learning curve,
oh.
all about, and actually it got me to again wonder what is eternity really like, and is there eternity? Is there eternal life? What does that look like? Is there freedom after death? What is it? And is death really just a full stop, or is it actually a continuum? The reincarnation and everything. So it got me down that road, but then I just came to peace with death is death, and it's okay. Whatever happens afterwards, we see it then. But right now, I'm living life, and maybe I should make the most out of that. So four siblings, mom and dad, they're both alive and well, and my other siblings are good and healthy too.
Okay. But in terms of worldview, is everyone Hindu adjacent, or is anyone Christian or anything like that?
So yeah, my younger two brothers, I think they're pretty much agnostic or atheist.
Okay. Okay.
Um, and I'll say my older brother's like more on the Hindu side, and same with my parents as well. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
And this is a totally random question, and I don't want to, dwell on this, but the dedication of the new temple for Ram, in India,
Yes.
and on
Yes. 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 Yes.
allegedly on a mosque or whatever, the mosque that was on the temple or whatever, we don't know for sure. But
Right.
without going too much into the politics, we hear about Hindu nationalism and
Mm-hmm.
different things like that. And of course, there's always religious tension everywhere, all the time. Middle East right now, and Gaza and the Palestine.
Right.
But just very briefly, what's your 2 cents on the that situation?
It's interesting. I haven't been asked it, surprisingly, from anyone, and I think possibly because everyone knows what my answer is going to be. Well, one thing it's done, in the positive sense, has brought which I have not seen in Hindus before, was a sense of pride and a bit of kind of vigor, shall I say, a bit of energy, a bit of oomph to them. And this has allowed people to kind of open up that they're Hindus. And I think that's really good, because I think that was needed. The whole, obviously, but there's other positive things, like, for example, the government of India, as much as someone can turn around and say it's about Hindu nationalism, but they actually are educating people on the philosophy of, so that what they're doing is setting up courses in different states of India where people get to know about Advaita Vedanta, and really understand what the philosophy of Hinduism is, rather than just having a pride that you identify as a Hindu. So I see the positive side too. Obviously, there's always going to be that bunch of people who are kind of fundamentalists, but I don't think, at least from the government side, they're probably trying not to do that, because they probably are aware of the global perception. And but yeah, it's like how I see people here in America very proud of their religion, the Christians, and I see it with Muslims as well. And I'm really glad that Hindus now have that kind of sense of pride as well. And I think, if we the hope is that they don't lose the pluralistic nature that we inherently have, that we see everyone as one, and we respect everyone for whatever they believe in. And that, again, I hope that the minorities in India of the religions of Christianity or Islam or any other minorities, that they're still treated the same way, and treated with respect and honor as every other citizen, regardless of whether they're Hindu or not. So, but yeah, but it was nice to just see a bit of celebrations, and it, it was it was good to see a bit of pride again, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's one pride parade I can get behind, I think, as opposed to the North American Western style of pride parade. I'm not so not so gung ho, but yeah, I'm just being silly, obviously. But yeah, C.S. Lewis, he's a famous Christian and thinker and great writer. He makes Christian thought very accessible. He has a way with
Mhm.
words, and when he converted to God, he, much like you, hesitated between Hinduism and Christianity. He was just like,
Mm,
oh, which way should I go? And I don't know what really tipped the scales for him, but I found that fascinating, because it seems like chalk and cheese. It's like, how
mm,
different could they be? But of course, in my own conversion back to God, I lost my faith at age 14. I was born and
mhm.
raised Protestant Christian, and so I was
Okay.
atheist for 25 years until age 39 in 2009. And when I came back to God, I had an existential experience, an encounter with God, with my
Okay.
God and with your God. It's the same God, I believe, but they're just
Yes.
different understandings of it. Um, but so because of my existential experience, which was fraught with all kinds of errors that I brought to the table, just misconceptions and misattributions and stuff like that. But basically, I had an encounter with that one mind of God, and so that, because I came to God that way, I have a lot of sympathy towards the East and towards Hinduism and Buddhism and different thoughts of the East that some of
Mhm.
my you know fellow Christians don't have. They don't have that sympathy because they haven't had that experience. They were born and raised and they just stuck with it, or maybe they strayed and came back, but it wasn't like a deep mystical thing for them,
Mm.
whereas for me it was a
Mhm.
deep and mystical thing. So very briefly, I have a question from my friend Phil Gonzalez. I want to give a shout out to him. He's one of my friends I've met on the podcast. He's asking, have you ever read, and I'm sure you have, the Mahabharata in its
The
entirety?
Mahabharata.
In its
Uh, n-
entirety?
I haven't read it in its entirety.
Uh,
It's a massive book. I think it's like got 100,000. I may even be wrong with that. I think there's a lot more verses.
uh,
So it's a massive
is it a
text.
bookshelf? Is it like a shelf on your bookshelf? Like it's like
Yeah,
a lot of
it'd
books?
be, yeah, it'd be. Although I do have it on my Kindle.
Ah, really?
Uh, yeah, I do have it
Ah,
on my Kindle. Um, but I have read the Bhagavad Gita,
yeah.
which is from the Mahabharata. It's in that
So that would
in
be
the text.
maybe what, 20% of the.
Probably even less than that.
Really?
Kind of. Yeah, it's
Okay.
the Bhagavad Gita is around 700 verses.
That's it?
So it's
Oh,
very small. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I should look into some of those texts. I've certainly seen the Bhagavad Gita, and I think I've seen a famous book, like a an interpretation of it by one of the gurus that was popular in the U.S.
Oh
There's
yeah,
so
I
many. Do
kind
you
of
know
know
the
which
one?
one it is.
Do you know the one?
Yeah, yeah.
He's not a
It's the
terribly
one that
good-looking guy. He's not a very good-looking guy. The guy. Do you know the guy I'm talking about?
I think I know you're on about. I tend to tell people not to read that version.
Ah, I didn't read it. I didn't read it. I just saw my friends had it, you know. But before we get too deep into the metaphysics, well, I guess it's a connected thing. I want
Mhm.
to ask you about well, you know, what's termed polytheism, and what I guess is polytheism, but what lies behind the polytheism is monism. So how do you understand that? Because there seems to be a hierarchy in terms of not only like academia, but more like a spiritual or mystic understanding about Hinduism, where the sages, they're privy to an understanding that the people at the bottom of the pyramid, who are busy with their families and their lives and their merchant class or whatever they're
Mhm.
up to, they don't necessarily have the depth of understanding of their own religion, so that they focus more on the polytheistic side, maybe more superstitious side, and then the great sages will have insights that would make the man on the street look a little bit unsophisticated with his relationship to that one mind, right? So can you just talk about that in general terms? And is that true? Is that stereotype that I've presented you with? Is that roughly true?
Unfortunately, on the appearance, it may look true, and I'm hoping that. But yes, I would say growing up, especially the school system, they don't at the time they didn't really do a good job of explaining what Hinduism is. So, for example, I was never taught Advaita Vedanta at school. I was told that we had multiple gods. And so when you read that in the textbook, and then now I'm like, that's far from what the belief is. And the majority of Hindus actually believe in Advaita Vedanta. It's
Okay.
kind of uh, the kind of major school of philosophy that we tend to follow.
Can you break
Because
those two words down for me? Advaita and
yes,
Vedanta.
yes. So Vedanta means the end of the Vedas, so the philosophical portion of the Vedas. So the Vedas has the
Oh,
ritualistic side, and it has the philosophical side. So the
uh,
sages, and now hardly anyone really follows the Karma Gand portion, which is the ritualistic side.
okay.
And now we mainly go into the Gyan Kanda, which is the philosophical viewpoints. So from there, so a lot of people are in the school. What you could say is Vedanta, and within Vedanta, there's three main schools.
Okay.
So you have obviously monism, you have qualified monism, and then you have dualism. So,
Okay.
so the dualism is very similar to what you have in the West in the Abrahamic religions, the
Oh, okay.
separation. So what
What
you
do they call
described to
that
me,
one? It's not Advaita, it's what?
it'd be Dvaita. So Advaita means not two or non-dual.
Ah, okay.
So and then Dvaita. So without the A in the beginning, it
Ah,
would mean
okay.
dualism.
Cool.
And then Vishishta Dvaita is basically they believe that eventually we are separate until we die and attain mukti or moksha and liberation, and then there's oneness. So it's oneness
Ah,
after death rather than
ah,
before. So in Advaita, what we believe in is you'll experience oneness now,
okay.
and you can become free from the cycle of birth and death in this life while you're alive. Um, so majority follow Vedanta, so one of those three schools, and um, so in there, yes, you will have the different aspects of Brahman. Brahman is what we would call God, um, and the deities that you may see, whether that's Ganeshi, which has the head of the elephant, if or Hanumanji, which has the face of um, a
Okay.
monkey, all those are just aspects of that one Brahman, and they're one and the same. They're not anything different.
Right.
So, but yes. unfortunately, I think a lot of these scholars have not been able to kind of portray that or convey that in the correct manner, I feel.
Why
Um,
is why is the word polytheism even in existence? Because I just don't think that anyone actually believes in multiple gods, do
yeah,
they?
it's kind of been. I think it's what. To be very frank, what the colonizers did. So
Oh,
when the British, they obviously colonized us and in India, and I don't think they can make sense of what. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, I can't blame them because it's
yeah,
such a massive system of thought and
yeah,
philosophy.
yeah. It's deep.
So for them, if they see a temple and they go to a temple and they see all these murtis, these deities that are carved in stone, they're going to be confused. Of course, they're going to think we believe in separate gods, and that's going to be, I would say, a very simplistic understanding. Um, but those that had more kind of a sophisticated understanding, who were British, they would probably understand that these are just elements of or aspects of that one indivisible Brahman, that one ultimate reality
What is
that we
the
call
word
God.
Brahmin or whatever? What are the roots of that historically or
So yeah,
etymologically?
Brahman. Yeah, so that you see in the, at least from what I'm aware of, in the Upanishads, you find you have two words, the Atman and Brahman. So the Atman is basically the individual soul. Although in Advaita Vedanta, the individual soul is the same as Brahman, so it's not different. Um, so, um, but yeah, you have the individual soul, and then you have Brahman, which is that vast kind of oneness, that one vast field of awareness, and um, and I guess uh, where the personifications happened, or the metaphors, or the metaphorical kind of images, has come from the Puranas, which is a text written much later after the Upanishads and even maybe even the Gita. Um, they are more like narratives that kind of try to, again, for the people who are uh, not interested in the philosophy, but they want to have some grounding in spirituality, they can read the Puranas and get something from it. So kind of like the parables in the Bible, I would equate the Puranas are similar to that, really.
What about my friend Phil is asking about the caste system? It's just a very small tangential question. We won't dwell on it, but
Mhm.
that's it's a strong stereotype of the civilization in India and surrounding regions that there's this caste system, very rigid. You can't switch castes. How do you deal with that, or you just ignore it, or you weren't raised there, so you don't really have to deal with it?
I mean, I think there is an aspect of people who may follow the caste system. I didn't even know what my caste was when I was growing up until
Ah,
I heard someone else ask me, and I was like, "What is this?" Then I
ah.
asked my parents, and then they said, "You're part of this caste," and I was
Which
like,
caste?
"Okay."
Which caste are you?
I was like, "What is it?" And so I'm from the Kshatriya caste, which is like the warriors and the businessmen
Okay.
type of caste. And yeah, but I never knew, and it didn't really bother me. Like I didn't see anyone as anything lower than me or
Uh-huh.
higher than me.
Uh-huh.
So that wasn't there. And then even with my friends, we didn't really care. When I went to university, nobody cared. It's only comes up when maybe there's talks of marriage, but again, in
Ah.
my situation, we never talked about it. So yeah, it's never been a presence in our life, but it can be in other people's lives, I'm guessing. But and it may be so in India, but it's not as I mean, look, we have the caste system here in
Yeah, of course.
America
Of course, of
or
course.
in the West. We have different versions of it.
Yeah.
So
We
it's
have, we
kind
have
of
Epstein Island, the ultimate
yeah,
uh,
or
elite
yeah. I mean,
class.
yeah. I mean, you have it at work, right? You have the CEO that and the
Yeah.
janitor. They're not paid the same. They're not
Yeah.
treated the same. They
Yeah.
don't get the same benefits.
Yeah.
The C-suite gets different to what everyone else gets. So you know,
Do you
and
know your
that's
do you know your geography in terms of your ancestors, where geographically they were, north, south, probably north or
North India. So we're in Punjab, but it would be now Peshawar. So it'd be now Pakistan.
oh, you have
But
Sikh stock. You come from Sikh stock or Sikh. stock,
The
right?
Sikh, yeah.
Ah,
So Sikh
uh-huh.
thought, but well, we have the name Singh, but yeah, but I'm more into Vedanta,
Yeah,
more
yeah, yeah. But
into
can you
the
tell me what's the difference between your conception of God as Advaita Vedanta and the Sikh, I think that's how you pronounce it, the Sikh
yeah.
pronunciation, the Sikh, excuse me, conception of God.
It's exactly.
Are they more monotheist than you or no?
No, I would say they're the same.
Same.
So there's a lot of question into how Guru Nanak Dev Ji, the founder, interpreted when he said Ik Onkar. So that has come from Omkara, which is again Brahman, that same
Okay.
uh, one one's kind of God.
Consciousness or
So
God. Yeah.
so yeah, it's not entirely different. Some people say it's Vishishtadvaita, the qualified monism,
Okay.
so we're separate, um, but the thing that goes against that is in the Guru Granth Sahib, the Sikh text, you have sayings like Brahmgyani Gasagalakar, Brahmgyani Abnagar. So it's kind of, the last line means that the Brahmgyani, the realized person, is the same as um,
Uh,
this formless consciousness,
okay.
this God. So it's so realistically, it's more Advaita, but from a philosophical point of view, obviously we have different practices and different ways of expression, and their expression is beautiful. I mean, I really love listening to the kirtan that the Sikhs sing, and so yeah, it's more or less the same. Yeah. Yeah, but yeah,
That's cool.
it's up to. But again, like someone can make it into a dualism, like oh, there's me and then there's a Vaiguru. So someone can make that. It's always upon the person and how they've been brought up, um, and I can. So yeah, that's the beauty I think in these Eastern religions is their interpretation is always based on your own experience. Eventually,
Yeah, but if for lack of a better term, I think it's just good to use the word God.
yeah,
You
yeah,
you,
sure, sure,
you refer to God as it. I say He, even though
yeah,
God
we can,
doesn't have a gender or a sex. God is beyond.
yeah,
God is pure spirit. There's no material. There's no composition whatsoever. But so I will say God, He, whatever. We say He because He's purely active. There's no potential. So
hmm
God is activity, not receptivity. So yeah, so the thing about your conception, the Advaita, your
uh-huh.
conception, there's nothing preventing God from pretending to be really separate from himself, right? Like so, like if I'm God and I'm pretending not to be God, of course I'm going to deny that I'm God. I'm going to say, well, I'm David and God's God and we're separate and whatever. So from your perspective, your purely monistic perspective, there's nothing preventing God from doing that charade or that theater, that charade.
Right, yeah,
You
yeah.
could just see it
I
as
think
theater. You could just see it as play acting,
yes. Yeah.
right?
Uh, as Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita says, this is all a leela, it's all a drama, a play
Yeah.
upon existence. And yes, I mean, there is what I would say, there's the transcendent and the immanent. So, you have the transcendental Brahman, then you have the immanent Brahman, the me, you, the objects of this universe, this existence. It's infused within everything, and therefore um yes, I don't I wouldn't even mind calling it he or a she,
Uh-huh.
so for me, um so yeah, so I think that's the concept that we have in Advaita, is that it's transcendent and yet immanent, it's within existence, and we don't have to uh kind of have this separation, because the separation would just be an appearance to us. It's not necessarily the reality.
Yeah,
When we
yeah, yeah.
get rid of when we address the separation through self-inquiry, which is one of the methods that is prescribed in the Upanishads, we're able to kind of eventually, hopefully, attain that oneness and be living embodiments, not people who shout off the rooftops of "I am God" or something, but like more, but more humble, humble beings, and living a righteous life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it's inevitable. I mean, the reunion, reunification is inevitable from your point of view.
Yes,
It's not from my
yes.
point of view. There is an eternal hell, and people do go there. They're forever separated from God. That is the difference between your worldview and mine, and that's why I'll never be on your side, because I have to believe in hell and eternal hell in order to have any morality whatsoever. I mean, you could have the theater, the play acting, like pretending that there's morality, but I actually have morality, real morality. Our choices do matter. They do have consequences. You want to talk about karma? I have karma. You don't have karma. You only have,
No,
you know,
no, we have
you only
karma
have,
too.
yeah, but the karma is useless because everything will get resolved
No, no, no,
into heaven. There's no hell. There's no hell for
no,
you.
no, no. So, no, we have
Correct me if I'm
karma.
wrong. Correct me if I'm
Yeah,
wrong.
no, I must correct you. No, we have karma. We have to, we will have repercussions of our actions. If I am, and if I hurt somebody, that will come back to me. No matter how much I may claim I'm awareness or I'm consciousness or I'm God, that doesn't really matter. If I'm hurting someone, that action will come back to me, um, and the repercussions will be there. That does not, and I believe personally, to get to that stage of what we're talking about, the liberated whilst alive stage, that's difficult to get to. It's easy on paper, but difficult in practice, because we make it difficult. So yeah, karma is definitely, and I believe heaven and hell is more or less what we live in on earth. If we are bad, we're creating a hell around us, and if we're doing good, we're creating a heaven around
Yeah,
us.
but
There's peace,
have
there's
you ever watched
tranquility.
a movie? There are happy movies, there are horror movies, there are
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
dramas, and there are, thrillers. And what you're living in is just a movie where it's just like the good, the bad, the dark, and the light. Those are just colors on the palette of this beautiful creation with this theater.
Mm-hmm.
When all is said and done, when the dust settles, and when this has all played out, and you've lived every reincarnation, every life that you believe that you're going to
Hmm.
live, when all is said and done, and the dust settles, there's just Brahman or Brahman or however you pronounce it, and that's it. That's it. That's like
Yeah.
it's just a happy ending for
Yeah.
everyone, because everyone is just the one,
Yes, and
right?
there's great peace in this.
Yeah, there's great peace in it, but there's no morality in it. There's zero
No, no,
morality
no.
in it. There's only the illusion, the theater of morality, because when
And
all is said and done, there's only God, and that's called heaven. There is no hell. The hell that you're describing is just the theater. It's just like, hey, let's watch a scary movie. That's all.
no, but there are again, there are repercussions. If I, for example, if I do not live a good life, and I do not live a life that is, if I live a life that is causing himsa, violence towards others in any way, mental or physical, then that I will definitely be reincarnated, and that reincarnation is not very kind. It will be according to my actions. So
Yeah, but
um,
fast forward past all the
I know you're
drama,
talking about
past
the.
all the drama, and what is the end result for
You
you?
see, we would say that, is it fair for somebody not to be able to actually address their faults? I think what we do here, what with the theory of karma, the practice of karma, is that you're able to address the ills that you've done. And I think there's great humanness. I wouldn't say that, yeah, we may not be driven by morality, but we're driven by our own humanness. And that's what the sages of the Upanishads, what the Adi Shankaraji, the great thinker of Advaita Vedanta, that's what they all talk about. It's not that you lose your humanness, or you lose your sense of doing good towards others. It's one of the biggest things we have to do, this concept of seva, so selfless service. We are guided to do that. That if you truly see God in everyone, then you must serve them. So how can I harm them?
Let me just ask you something, because this is not the first time I've talked
Yeah, I
with
know.
a
Yeah, yeah,
Hindu or someone from the
yeah,
East or a New Age
yeah.
person or whatever, and it always boils down to the same question: what if someone wanted to take the dark path, the darkest path possible? Where there's a choice between light and dark, they choose dark. When there's a
Hmm.
choice between two shades of gray, they choose the darker shade always, because they want to explore the dark side. Okay, and yes, you could warn them it's going to involve suffering for themselves and everyone that they care about, if they care about anyone but themselves, and if they care about themselves. But they just say, I don't care. I believe that I'm God, and I'm just going to explore this dark side, and nothing you can say will discourage me. So, is it possible? Is it possible that someone that makes that stupid decision could actually end up getting stuck in what you would call hell, or what I would call hell, where they can't come back to enlightenment, back to the light, back to health, joy, peace, beauty, goodness, all the stuff that God is the source of? Is it possible to get stuck in that? If so, then there's really no difference between your worldview and mine. We both have an eternal hell. But if you're telling me that that being will eventually find their way back to the light, because all there is the light, then it's just an exciting voyage that this person took. And that person that took the darkest path will probably be one of the highlights of the story of God pretending, right? Pretending that he's lost, pretending that he's capable of evil, pretending that he's capable of sin. So what do you say to
But
that?
but that person does not know that they are God. If they are doing those things, that person cannot be in the realization. That realization only occurs when someone has really studied Vedanta, has really practiced meditation. They've really absorbed the teachings. They've
Okay,
gotten
so they
to a
don't know, they
guru,
don't
and
know that they're God. They don't know that they're God, or they've forgotten that they're God, but they are God. According to you, they are God.
but
But
they are.
they've forgotten it, which is the point, which is kind of the
That's
point of your whole thing.
they're in ignorance,
That is the
and when
whole
you
point of this trip, is to forget that you're God and then find your way back. So my question is, that person that forgot that they're God, which is the whole point of your religion, if that person that forgot that they're God takes the darkest path, can
Mhm.
they get stuck, or are they going to inevitably find their way back? Because in
Inevitably
reality,
they find a
the
way.
highest reality is that person is not a separate person. That person is the one true God.
They're that one. There's only the one supreme consciousness, and yes, but that person, as they're consumed in ignorance, and they feel that they are separate to everyone, hence they're doing such acts, and they're absorbed in their ego identity.
Yeah.
That person, yes, they eventually will have a chance to find retribution, to come back and address, but they have to address what they've done in the past. It doesn't mean that they will um, just go, get a clean shit and be
Right,
like,
but
you're fine.
you can accumulate infinite debt, or almost infinite debt, whatever that means.
Yeah, yeah.
Or
I mean, yeah,
but you can always,
technically, yeah.
but God, there's no debt that God can't pay. Like, that's the whole point. Like, God can pay any debt, right? So you can accumulate a huge, very burdensome debt karmically, but you can
Yes,
always pay your way out because you're God, right? Whether you realize it now or not, that's a different question.
but
But you can
for that,
ultimately always pay your way out, and it's just like, at the end of the day, there is no hell. You do not have a hell. You have just dark experiences. God forgets that he's God, has dark experiences. That's just interesting. It's just an interesting part of God's story, of his little theater, right? There is no morality, because that darkest path will ultimately be resolved back into heaven, because God is heaven, heaven is God. That's all there is.
but the chances of that person even getting to the understanding that there is only God
Is 100%.
is
100%.
highly unlikely if
Oh,
they're,
you're saying in that particular lifetime.
yeah,
Yeah, but
like, and eventually,
I'm not talking about the person in terms of one individual lifetime. Like, your claim is that
or
people have
even,
multiple
or,
lifetimes.
yes, and eventually, like I said, and we don't know how long those lifetimes are going to be. So it's also that, I mean, it's um, eventually you can say them coming back onto Earth not as a human being is hell for them.
Right.
Uh,
But
so
every creature that has sentience, would you say that even rocks and stones and dirt and dung are God? That's God.
well, all there is only pure consciousness, but
Yeah.
these rocks and stones that we see, they are merely appearances. Just like me,
But are
I'm
they
just
on
a
a voyage
body.
of reincarnation? Are the sticks and stones on a voyage of
Yes, yes,
reincarnation? Okay,
yes,
okay,
yes,
okay.
yes, yes,
So
yes.
what
So
is
that's
the
what I mean.
lower
So
what is the
So
lowest?
when
Is it the mineral that's the lowest? Lowest below the vegetation. Vegetation is below the beasts, and the
I mean that
beasts are beneath the humans.
I mean, it can be, you know, there's stories, again, the Puranas, they give narratives to describe this in a very wonderful way. And there's stories of how some people become planets, they become the sun, they become a star. So eventually you can understand the lifetime of that is
Long.
humongous.
Right.
So so that's what it comes down to. I mean, if they're born as a stone on the earth, I mean, they may have a quicker chance to get reincarnated somehow. But or if it's or a tree or something. But yeah, but like I said, it's not easy for someone who is drowned in ignorance and causing immense amount of pain and suffering to others. It's very unlikely for them to find themselves knowing this true one, and actually
Well,
experiencing
you
it.
would say it's impossible for anyone but a human or something higher than a human to have that awakening, right? You wouldn't say that a carrot could become enlightened, right? Because
No,
they
no,
have to
no, yeah.
reincarnate. They have to be a good carrot and then come back as something better.
No, we as humans, what we know of is we have the art of the intellect. We have
Yeah,
we can rationalize, we can use logic.
and we have free will.
So that is obviously something I
Oh,
do not believe we have free will. I
oh,
believe everything is kind of determined. Um,
oh. Is that what your school teaches too, or no?
um, so say that again.
Is that what you're
Yes. So
are you being orthodox when you say that? Or are you straying from the
no,
mainstream
no,
thinking?
I'm being kind of maybe. Well, now I'm being orthodox. Yeah, I would say because everything is, for example, you there's the appearance of choice. So I'm not saying that you don't get a choice. There's the appearance of choice. So and your choices are determined by your environment. There's so many things that are determining your choices.
Of
So
course,
you actually really do not have the ability to make a real choice because it's
it's constrained.
impacted by so many
It's constrained. Totally
variables.
constrained. It's totally constrained. Yeah, yeah. So
So in that sense, so there is so everything is determined, yet there is this appearance of making a choice, and I think maybe some people do make a choice.
here's
Um,
you do believe it's possible that some people do make a choice.
well, I do think that people can kind of step back,
Okay,
and it's again you have to be really. When I say this, I mean someone has to be really elevated spiritually to be
uh,
able to slow down and actually observe the mind and then conduct an action. And this again is immense practice needs to be done. It's not something that can just be done by
because
everyone
there
because we
can
more or
be,
less are
but
reflect. We mainly function from reflex and kind of responding.
right, but you have to admit, logically, reasonably, that there can be no morality without freedom of the will. There cannot be morality. If I'm only doing what I'm constrained to do, there's no morality in these so-called choices that I'm making. There's no praise, there's no blame. There's only the illusion of praise and blame that's heaped onto the illusion of free choice, because that's all it is illusion. So there's no morality. Once again, I come down against your worldview that you don't have morality. You don't have real morality because you don't have free will. Now you're saying some enlightened beings might have free will, so they could have morality. They could be held to the choices that they make because they were free to choose. But if you're not free to choose, you don't punish someone for doing what they had absolutely no choice but to do.
Yeah, I mean, like for example, that's the choices they were bound to make,
Yeah,
and that's why, and actually, with this view that we have, it actually um, makes you more compassionate, and I think compassion arises from there because um, you don't look to blame somebody. You don't you understand the bigger picture, and you're not so much into the micro detail. You see the macro, you see the vaster picture that's at play, and I think that creates more compassion, and you care. You understand that that person that's created that who's conducted a bad action or the appearance of a bad action, according to us, that's only because of the circumstances they're in, and so you don't hate them
Yeah,
for
but
that.
you're not freely choosing this, high-minded attitude of compassion towards your fellow man. This is just you're just a cog in the great machine, and you're just moving according to the constraints that are forcing you to have this enlightened view. And even your journey to enlightenment, if you were to get there to the point where you could actually make a free choice according to you, that was all programmed and predetermined
Determined. Yeah,
by,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So it's
We're
not
all
like
determined to be enlightened.
it's not like you merited that freedom that you got. You just stumbled into it because that's the way that
No,
things played out.
we're all determined to be enlightened for sure. We're all determined, and it's for some it's going to be sooner, some it's going to take longer. Um,
But it is
yeah,
inevitable. It is inevitable.
it's
So
inevitable.
yeah,
Yeah,
so everyone, everyone, and when I say one, I mean there's only one.
yeah.
There's only God, there's only God, there's only heaven. So this is my critique of monism, and this is why I'm a monotheist, because my life is a drama, an adventure. It's dangerous. It's a romance, and there are real choices to be made with real consequences. And
Mhm.
if I mess it up, I'll end up in a really horrible place for all eternity, and I can't get out. It's like conscious torment and suffering, just constantly for eternity. So it's high stakes, very high stakes. You have zero stakes. You have nothing. There's no skin in the game whatsoever. You're literally God
I,
just playing. You're just God playing around. You're just doing
but
theater.
but
And I'm not saying this
I,
to be mean to you. I'm just saying this is why your worldview doesn't appeal to me at all. I think it's nice. It's nice, but because it's just win 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 with a bit of theater to entertain you. But it's not. There's no drama, and there's no. Uh, well, there's no morality. That's what I keep coming back to. There's no morality.
but
So
do you
that's my
feel that
critique.
it's fair that if somebody has conducted, obviously has lived a bad life, that they have to be eternally damned? Is that fair?
Yeah, it's karma. Like, it's real karma. That's what real karma is. Like, I mean, we have real free choice, and there are consequences for that. And when you it's proportionate to the affront to God. Like, I mean, God is infinite. His dignity is infinite. So an affront to that infinite dignity, uh, what are the consequences for that? It's going to be infinite. You know what I mean? It's not like, if you like you were talking about the janitor and the CEO, if you're to insult the janitor, you probably get away with it. But if you walk into the CEO's office and insult them, the consequences are going to be higher. So you waltz into God's office and insult him. What do you expect?
Hmm. Okay. So, but what I mean is that so whenever somebody's in hell, so I'm assuming somebody's in hell, they have no chance of coming
No,
out. They don't have
they're
the free will
screwed.
to say, forgive me.
No, they don't have they
Then it's
don't
determined.
they don't have the inclination. They don't have the inclination. It's not
But
well, I mean, it is, I guess it is determined in that case. Like, they've lost their freedom. Once they're in hell, they've lost their freedom. Once I'm in heaven, I'm going to still have my freedom. Like, that's the thing. Like, I mean, the people in hell have lost everything. Like, they've lost their life, they've lost their joy, they lost their peace, they lost everything good. Everything good comes from God. And so if you turn away from God, if you reject God, you're rejecting justice, mercy, peace, goodness, beauty, health, everything that's good, everything that we want. That's what hell is. It's a rejection of everything that is good. So yeah, you've lost your free will, you've lost your beauty, you've lost your comfort, you've lost your everything, your health. It's just like, it's hell. So yeah, I mean, that's why we have here on earth we have this one life, not multiple lives. We have one life where we get to choose for or against uh, God. God loves us. He loved us into being, and the appropriate response to that is love. Like, we are loved, and we should respond with love. But it has to be given freely. That's the thing. We're not robots. We're not robots that are predetermined and absolutely constrained. We are very, 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 very constrained, as you know. We're very constrained, but we do have freedom. It may not be much freedom, but it's just enough to merit heaven or hell. And there are degrees of heaven and degrees of hell. That's another thing that we should point out. It is a spectrum, And so it's not like everyone gets exactly the same outcome in hell or exactly the same outcome in heaven. It's going to be according to your merits, and so yeah, it's
So
complicated in that way.
yeah, okay. So it's pretty. Yeah, it does sound
More
rather
nuanced. It's a
complicated.
bit more
It's
nuanced.
more nuanced. Yeah, yeah. Okay, because normally the headline is there's only one heaven and there's one hell. Okay,
Well, in the
that's interesting.
Bible, Saint Paul talks about he was taken up to the third heaven and these sorts of things. So, you know, and he talks about there's talk of the different choirs in heaven and these sorts of things, the
Hmm.
seraphim, the cherubim, and all these sorts of things. So,
Hmm.
I'm just wondering, we've already burned through 50 minutes. I'm
Hmm.
just wondering when you look at the West and their obsession, like because it is an obsession with Hindu adjacent topics like yoga. I'm
Hmm.
sure you laugh at the shallowness of the philosophical side, or even maybe of the postures and the the physical side of it. I don't know. Maybe that's not even up to snuff. But what do you think the appeal is, other than sort of a bunch of Christians running away from their Christian upbringing and trying to find something
Hmm.
exotic and exciting and new? Uh, why do you think so many people, especially in the New Age movement, there's so many people that are obsessed with these Eastern ideas, non-duality? Everyone's talking about non-duality all the time, and reincarnation. I met so many people that believe in reincarnation. What is the appeal? Do you think that it's intellectual, or do you think it's more, like I said, a sort of cool alternative to the monotheistic way of life?
Yeah, and I'm kind of again, and my view on that is rather nuanced, but yeah, majority of the people, I think they when they go to yoga or they go to um they go to non-duality, it can be on a very pseudo level, a very kind of without any deep understanding. So, for example, in the non-dual circles, um, there are a lot of people that say you don't read the scriptures, don't read the Upanishads, don't understand the philosophy. You are it. That's it. End of. And I think it's a bit more nuanced than just saying you are it. So um, and so you have that kind of thing where they say there's no book, there's no this, no that, no you, no microphone, and you're like, okay, come
Okay.
on. If I shortchange you, if someone shortchanges you at the restaurant, you're gonna be kicking up a fuss, or if someone takes money out of your bank account, you're not gonna be like, oh yeah, there's no money, there's no bank account, so there's a number of those. Again, with yoga, a lot of it has become kind of just doing the physical postures without knowing the deep philosophy behind so the asanas, which they're called, the postures, they're just one element of that philosophy of yoga. And it's a shame that they do not look into the deeper aspects, and it's, I guess, good business for a lot of them. um, and again, there's a lot of people that do Kundalini awakenings, chakra healing,
Yeah,
and all
yeah,
this
yeah,
type
yeah,
of stuff.
yeah.
Um, Again, I don't want to. Again, they have deeper significance in the East, but what's done in the West is more, I think, on a business level. It's kind of a very corporate thing,
Yeah.
um, and yeah, but yeah, it's a bit of a shame because they co-opt our kind of lingo and twist it in some weird uh in some weird way, and you're like, and it causes confusion because whenever someone then you know comes across someone with talking about chakras and things, they're gonna think we're talking about the same thing.
Right, yeah.
So
Just like they took your
or
swastika too. That wasn't very nice.
yeah, exactly. And we're trying to reclaim that
Yeah,
today
yeah,
and trying to, bring the right understanding about it. But yeah, and yes, it's been co-opted a lot by, unfortunately, I would say, the the right wing. Um, it's become a horseshoe. They appeared to be left wing, and they turned to it turned into a right wing fantasy, um, and this has happened from like in between 2016 to today. So yeah, it's really weird. It's a weird phenomenon. Yeah, absolutely strange.
You know the guy that found the Bhakti yoga cult here in North America? Bhakti yoga. Do you know the guy?
Uh, what's the name?
Bhakti yoga. I'm just gonna Google it now. How do you spell Bhakti?
Bhakti.
Okay. The guy's name is uh
Is it the Hare Krishnas you're on about?
no. Um Bhakti yoga is a spiritual path or spiritual practice within Hinduism focused on loving devotion towards any personal deity, is one of the three classical paths in Hinduism which leads to moksha, the other paths being jnana and karma yoga.
Gyani Karma, yeah.
I'm trying to find the guy that was running this. Anyway, he had a bunch of sex scandals here in North America, like, sleeping with
Okay.
women and accused of rape and these sorts of things.
Okay.
But the reason I mention this particular guy is because he made the headlines. But there are many,
Okay.
many, 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 many gurus, big gurus, small gurus. Like I've talked to people that go to ashrams here in Quebec, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like everything was amazing until they figured out that the guru was screwing all the women. So, I mean, that, I don't think it was rape either. I think it's like a lot of these women, they like having
Mm-hmm.
sex, you know what I mean? So it's like, who do you blame? I don't know. But, you know,
Yeah.
what
Yeah. Yeah.
the main point that I'm getting at here, and I'm Catholic, so you're gonna think I'm the pot calling on kettle black, right? But, sex scandals, yeah. But there's sex scandals everywhere. But I'm just wondering what the actual teachings of your holy books are about sexual morality, because if you talked about Kundalini, you talked about
Hmm.
what's that famous book about sex positions that everyone's,
The Kama Sutra, yeah.
yeah, everyone's all excited about that. So what is the actual teaching? Is there some sort of purity, chastity, like self-control,
Sure.
marriage, the
Yeah. Yeah.
family, like keeping the daughters safe from predators? What is the actual teaching about sexual morality?
Yeah, I mean, very, very simple. I mean, so you have two kind of paths. You have one, the monastic path. They are, the swamis should be monastics. They should be monks. They should be practicing celibacy,
Yeah.
and brahmacharya is what it's called. So a lot of whoever ends up becoming a swami tends to be practicing that, and I'm sure most of them actually uphold it. Um, and then you have the householder path, which is kind of like what
Okay.
I'm living, the householder. And that path again, you are loyal to your partner, and yeah, you're not meant to cheat and um, or take away a woman's dignity or anyone's dignity in that sense. Yeah, those things are kind of condemned, and yeah, we're not expected to do any of those things. And although it's not said specifically, but that that's not what you do, type of thing. And the Kama Sutra, again, it's a very sophisticated text on love and relationships. It's not just about sex positions. And again, that's
Okay.
something that's being co-opted and
You
kind
pervert.
of changed. But the Kama Sutra is a text actually about love, believe it or not, actually
Yeah.
about love. And in there it talks about how you're not meant to hit your partner, how you're not meant to harm them in any way. In fact, more rights are given to women when it comes to choosing. So it's very different to what is.
Oh, women choosing. That brings to mind abortion. What's your view on abortion? Is that evil?
So a lot of for me, it's not evil. I mean, again, it's about someone's choice that they have to make, and we don't know the circumstances that someone's in. So it's really, I mean, I, and also, I'm not a woman to then turn around and say this is what should happen. So I don't think it's right for me to say that anything. But in our text, again, it's not really an issue.
Okay.
On in that sense.
What's the sorry, I'm just laughing occasionally because my friend Phil is famous for his bad jokes, okay? So if I'm
Okay.
looking off to the side and laughing, you know why, right? Okay, it's because of Phil.
Okay.
But what's with the Shiva lingam? It seems to have a special place in the. Do you
Yeah,
know
the
what I'm
Shiva
talking
Lingam.
about? Do you know what I'm
Yeah,
talking about?
yeah.
It's like it's got. I think it may have a fountain or something like water around it or something. It's like
The,
I've seen
the
images of it. People venerating this in India.
Yes, the Shiva Lingam is basically the personific. It's kind of the image that's presented to one of the kind of three uh, top deities, Shiva, and it just represents that. And what some schools talk about is it represents masculine energy, and the thing that's surrounding it is in the shape of a vagina, and that's to represent feminine energy. So basically, it's just worshipping energy, both masculine and feminine. So that's what that is.
I heard. I don't know if this is totally like out there, if there's any truth to this whatsoever, but I heard there's a connection between the Kaaba in Mecca, the big cube building,
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
Shiva
yeah, yeah.
lingam. There's a Shiva lingam in there.
Apparently, but I don't know. I mean, I've never seen it. You know what I mean? So I don't like.
Why would
Um,
they do that? Why is there a connection? Is there a connection culturally in the history of Islam? Is there a
I
connection?
don't think. No, I don't think there's been any connection. I
Mm.
know that sometimes the some Muslim scholars like to say Muhammad was predicted in our texts and all
Uh-huh,
sorts, but
uh-huh,
I don't think any of that. We're
uh-huh.
miles apart in terms of philosophical point of views um, and practices. So it seems highly unlikely
Yeah.
that there's a link.
What about just as a very brief topic before we wrap up here? It's been a pleasure talking with you. I hope it didn't
Likewise.
come down too
No,
hard
no,
on
no, it's
you.
been good. It's been good.
I
It's
get
been good.
excited. I get very excited, so I hope I didn't get too
No, no, it's
pushy
all
with
good.
you. But a very light topic to wrap up is food. My wife and I we don't eat garlic and onions, and there's this
Oh,
Ayurvedic
interesting.
diet. There's an Ayurvedic diet. I don't
Yeah,
know if
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
saying
yeah,
that
yeah.
properly.
Yeah,
There was a Hare Krishna temple and here in town, and they had a restaurant, and the food was very good because it's basically that's how I eat. It's like vegetarian, lots of carbs,
okay.
and they had sweets and stuff like that. And so I
Yeah,
really liked it. And they didn't do garlic and onions. There was no garlic and onions in their food.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
I
yeah.
I love that. Is that uh is that typical of your culture as a Hindu, or is garlic and onions something that
S-
you'll eat?
I mean, I eat garlic and onion, but yeah, there are some spiritual groups like Hare Krishnas, Brahma Kumaris, and I believe some others as well that don't consume garlic and onion. I think like Jains, they don't consume it. Um, they don't consume anything. I think that isn't from the ground actually. That's rooted type of rooted
Really?
vegetables. They don't eat
Ah,
that, I believe.
wow.
Um, but yeah, there's some that do that.
Are the
I
Hare Krishnas seen as like, are you embarrassed of the Hare Krishnas, or are they cool like everyone, all the other Hindu types?
I love their chanting, but I don't too agree with their philosophy or the way they look upon other Indian philosophies. I think we're more kind of kinder. Like we say, okay, it's okay to have your beliefs,
Yeah.
but they're very dogmatic, um,
Ah, is that what?
and
Okay.
like they're not very
Open-minded.
they're not they're not very open minded to say Advaita or
Oh, really?
Vishisht Advaita. They're very
They're
very sectarian.
they're dualist, like hardcore dualist?
Hardcore duelist, yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
hardcore. Yeah.
interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. So talk to me just very briefly about the food that you like in particularly your culture. I mean, you're sort of a mixed culture now, unfortunately, because of Britain, North America. But so you're maybe not the best guy to ask, but are you even aware of what the old school cooking is like?
Yeah, yeah, I mean, have grown up eating Indian food and,
So what do you like?
um, so I love all the dals that we have,
That's
the
lentil stuff?
vegetable yeah, the lentils,
Uh,
especially the sweet stuff. I'm a massive fan of, whether
uh,
it's the rice pudding, the kheer, whether it's the halwa.
uh.
I don't know if you ever tried halwa before. It's made with,
I've had the
uh
Arabic halwa.
okay, it might be a
I've
bit
had
different, yeah.
barfi. I've had the barfi.
Burfi, yeah, yeah, burfi, yeah, yeah.
I
That's
prefer the gulab jamun, the gulab, the
gulab jamun,
brown.
yeah,
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 I
yeah,
love that. I love that.
yeah, 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 gulab jamun. Yeah, so I'm a massive fan of the sweet stuff, which is kind of bad, you
Your
know.
teeth look good. Your teeth look very
Oh,
good.
thank you, thank
You got a
you.
brush like after that. So me, I really love the sag paneer, the spinach and
Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
cheese, and the
yeah, yeah,
sagaloo, anything with spinach, those curries, I really love them. But I haven't had them
yeah,
for years because I sort of developed, I used to eat garlic and onions, but later in life, like at midlife, I just was unable to eat it. Just
yeah,
digestive problems, headaches, and stuff like that.
yeah.
But pretty tasty food. What about? I wish I had another hour to talk to you, but I'd like to talk to you about the music. Is that a spiritual thing for you? The Indian
Yeah, very
music?
much so. I
Wow.
Well, I love. I listen to all sorts. I'll even listen to Eminem and and rap and everything. But yeah, I love the way the mantras are recited. I love the kirtans. You know, like
Okay.
Krishna Das. I don't know if
Okay.
you've heard of him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like when he does it in India, the music that's done there. I even love the Sufi Qawwalis that are sang as well. I love them.
Oh. Oh.
So yeah, again, when I hear like kind of choirs as well,
Ah.
Gregorian chanting, like I really
Oh.
love that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's um,
You like the
I think there's
spiritual,
great
the real
power.
spiritual stuff. Yeah, you like that.
Yeah, yeah, I really love that type of thing, and
Why
yeah.
why are you not Buddhist? What is wrong with Buddhism? Why are you not a Buddhist?
Nothing wrong with Buddhism. I think it's a beautiful religion, a beautiful school of philosophy. It's it's very, very, very sophisticated, and
Is it
what
diverse or just two or three schools?
I think it's pretty diverse now. It's pretty diverse. Um, but yeah, I mean, I have massive respect for Buddhists. I absolutely love them. They're our cousins, you could say, and you don't hate your own family. So,
Do you know, is this you, Vinay Mehta? Vinay Mehta?
no.
I just got an email. I wanted to share my guru.
Oh, I know Vinay.
He was
Yeah, yeah, I
born
know
and
Vinay.
raised Catholic and made a fantastic video. You'll really enjoy it. He's a Hindu monk in the Advaita Vedanta tradition.
Yeah.
So you know this
Yes, I know
person.
Vinay. Yes, I know Vinay. Yeah, he's a very nice guy. Very, um, very, very learned person too.
Oh, okay. You've met
Yeah.
him in real life or no?
No, we've connected because the guru that he's talking about. I listened to a lot of his teachings, and
Oh,
he's a
okay.
really, really good Swami. So that's the other thing I wanted to say. Like,
Yeah.
there's many good Swamis, but unfortunately, the bad ones get the publicity. and but
Ah.
look, trust me, the bad ones are a minority.
Okay. Okay.
There's so many good ones, and it's just unfortunate that they don't get the recognition. I guess they
Oh,
don't make the headlines, right? It doesn't sell.
yeah.
Oh yeah, there's a
Yeah.
good Swami, go to them. That's not gonna happen.
Yeah, yeah. Have you heard about Zakir Naik, the
the
Muslim
the
guy?
Islamic scholar from India, yeah.
He seems to have either an earpiece in which is feeding him information or a very good memory when it comes to scriptures from Hinduism, Christianity, and
It's
Islam. And
bad. Yeah.
is it a lot of nonsense or is it?
Yeah, the way he interprets the scriptures is really, really skewered
Okay,
by his own
bias.
bias and framework that he operates from. I doubt he actually remembers
It's an
uh,
earpiece.
stuff, but the public, for example, I think one, he's pretty much a genius in the sense of he knows the public's not going to question him. No one's carrying the Vedas or the Upanishads
Ah,
with them, so he or the Quran, so that he knows that, and again, to even question him, there's a line, and
ah,
how are people going to get there? Nobody can shout anything, so he's very, very controlled. And
ah.
yeah, when you see behind the scenes, it's really crazy. Like you can
Oh
just
yeah.
see it, like how things operate there.
Oh,
Um,
really?
but yeah, but Zach and
Ah,
I don't really think he's all that smart
okay.
as he claims to be.
Ah,
Um,
ah,
I think maybe he has good memory for remembering the Islamic scriptures. Like,
okay,
I won't doubt that bit, but the
okay,
Hindu scriptures, I don't know how much he really understands it. Because
okay.
if you're going to do comparative religion, then at least see it from the perspective of a Hindu rather than a perspective of a Muslim.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like if I need to look at the Bible, I need to look at it from a Christian point of view, not a Hindu point of view. So you know, there has to be that kind of understanding. I think, you know, he lacks that, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, the New Age people, they love talking about Christ consciousness,
Oh yeah,
and they
yeah,
take
yeah.
Jesus Christ.
That's grown a lot recently.
Yeah,
Again, like there's been a
yeah,
resurgence of
yeah,
was seen on YouTube, like the Course in Miracles stuff, and
yeah.
that
Oh,
stuff has really grown.
yeah. So there's so many things I want to talk to you about, but I have to wrap it up and get back to my wife now. But
Yeah,
I got to do my dharma. What is dharma,
yeah.
by the way?
Dharma is so you have Svadharma, which is your personal dharma, what you have to do. So what you're doing is your Svadharma, and dharma is the kind of the macro level, going for the greater good of society. And you do your dharma is basically you're doing your acts that will benefit society.
Nice. Well, what do you think about PodMatch? Have you met a lot of interesting hosts on PodMatch?
No, you know what? Um, I want
Is
to
that
say
where we
maybe
met?
one or two.
Did we meet
Yeah,
there?
yeah, we met on PodMatch, yeah.
Yeah, I
And
thought so.
I'm very, very kind of now I've become very, very kind of I do my background check. So I checked your podcast, I
Oh,
checked everything,
oh, okay.
and then I said yes. So I'm very
Uh,
which is probably why I took ages to respond. But yeah, I found like a lot of people, I don't know if you found that, but a lot of people just want to promote their own thing,
yeah.
and it's not necessarily actually having a conversation like this type of
Yeah.
thing.
Well, what I found with the guests, because I'm a host and I have guests on, what I found is I've been very pleasantly surprised with people that look like, they're just trying to sell their book or whatever. I've been very pleasantly surprised to find out that they're actually really interesting people and really fun to talk to. But for you as a guest going on to a host show, maybe it's not always that way because, on my podcast is really literally just a conversation. It's very organic, and I'm certainly not selling anything. And if they have a book that they're excited to talk about, I just sort of include that in the conversation
Right.
organically. But yeah, I've been pleasantly surprised. A lot of people who are into the new age, and a lot of people who are maybe into making money, business,
Yeah.
money. I'm not interested at all in that. But
Yeah. Yeah.
because they know that I'm into religion, they sometimes put an emphasis more on like that. Well, yeah, I was raised Catholic actually, and I'm not Catholic today, but they will talk about stuff that I'm interested in just because they know that I'm
Interesting.
interested in religion. So it's kind of cool that way. When you were researching me, was there any guest or did you listen to a couple of my episodes? And
Uh,
were you
yes.
interested in any of the people that you heard on my
Well,
show?
I listened to the Hindu ones,
Oh, no
and
way.
then I listened to the Sikh one as well.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah, the
I
Sikh
think
guy.
Sikh guy was from England, right? I think he sounded like he had a British
Uh,
accent.
did I interview one or two?
I
I
think
think
he was one
I've
I
only
saw.
done one, huh?
Yeah. Um,
Yeah, I apologize for the Hindu ones because it was very noisy, but they were having a
yeah.
festival.
Was,
Do you remember what
yeah, yeah,
event that
yeah.
was? Do you know what event that was?
I'm not sure what the event was.
It was loud
It
though.
might have been during Diwali. It might have been during
Okay.
the or Navratri, where they go to the temples and they celebrate a lot during that time. It's mainly like in October, November time, and they do this celebration. So Navratri comes first, and Diwali comes after that. So,
Okay.
yeah, if you caught someone in that celebration, you're kind of lucky that they
Yeah.
had a conversation
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah. Well, we were right in the temple, and
Yeah,
I just asked, and they took me upstairs, and there's like a little dining area or something, and
beautiful.
but did you agree more or less with those two Hindu gentlemen?
I kind of found myself at differing points of view,
Yeah.
and I can't remember what they were, but like I think one person was really into the polytheistic and was really
Uh,
emphasizing that, and I
okay.
didn't agree with that.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
um, and I can't remember the other
Yeah.
one, but yeah, I just recall that it was a real big sticking point for me.
Uh-huh.
Um,
You got the
yeah,
impression maybe they were like what I described at the beginning, like with the hierarchy of the sages, and then at the bottom you got regular people. You got the feeling
yeah.
they were a little bit less educated or whatever.
I think it could be sometimes with a lot of people, they don't know how to kind of
Articulate it.
discuss it, articulate it. And I think,
Uh,
especially if English is not their first
yeah,
language,
yeah.
you have to. I always give them the benefit of doubt
Of course,
because,
of course.
they're doing, and also they're trying to see how the other person will understand it. So
Uh,
they kind of, so there's so many things going on. So I kind of have a bit more compassion for them
yeah,
because I'm like,
of
okay, it's all
course,
right.
of course, of
Um,
course. Was I gentle and nice, or did I say some things crossed a line at any point? Do you remember?
and no, 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 no. I think you were very inquisitive.
I was
From what I remember, yeah.
respectful. I was
Yeah.
respectful. Okay.
Yeah, like today, you've been respectful. I mean,
I hope
I've
so.
I've had worse conversations on TikTok Live.
Oh
So,
yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah. This is nice. This is a conversation. I
Pretty
feel like a real
chill.
conversation. Yeah. But the ones I've had on TikTok, I get told I'm going to be going to hell.
Oh, oh yeah. So I didn't know that TikTok did lives now. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. They do
Oh, is there
lives
a time
and yeah.
limit?
Not no, no, not anymore. I think you have
Oh,
to have 1,000 followers. I think.
okay.
Um,
Okay.
I haven't done these lives for quite a few months because of the baby, but
Yeah.
yeah, they were really interesting. And it's really interesting how people try to bring in Christianity. At first, they appear to be very open-minded, and then suddenly they just switch, and it's like, where did this come from? Um,
Uh,
but you end up knowing what they're doing because they go round the roundabout type of thing, and
yeah.
you kind of know where they're going. So by the time they get to half around the roundabout, you kind of guess the game, and it's really fun. It's really fun stuff, to be honest. And there's some people that would, I think, I've had one person claim that he's the only one that knows what Christ wanted. I had some characters on there, man. It's
Yeah.
it's it's
Yeah.
it's, it's funny.
I apologize on behalf of all Christians
No, no,
everywhere.
no, no.
But I'm a bit quirky, and I'm not your average human, much less your average Christian, much less your average Catholic. But if you talk to a bunch of different Catholics, you might meet all kinds. But I'm very open and inquisitive, and I certainly don't condemn anyone to hell. Like, why would I do that? That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
That's absolutely
yeah, yeah, yeah.
ridiculous. My religion teaches me, that God is love, and God
Yes,
wants us
absolutely.
all to be saved. And I know you don't believe in my worldview, but there's a lot of
I respect it though.
overlap, a lot of
Yeah,
overlap for sure.
and I respect it too. I think if if I if I don't respect it, I just think I'm lacking compassion. Um, and I, and that's and one of the biggest virtues to have that you have to practice is compassion. And yeah, so yeah, you just and if you end up being too dogmatic as well, it's I could learn something. Why should I be so dogmatic that I don't learn? I've learned a lot in this conversation, and I rather that's what happens than just go, you're wrong, and
Butting heads.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, a lot of people want to win an argument. There's an expression: win an argument, lose a soul. You know what I mean? Like it's like
Mm,
you can win the argument, but at what cost? You know what I mean? And Saint Paul in the Bible, he talks about convincing people using fancy language and good arguments, and how that's a losing proposition, because what you're
mm,
converting them to is fancy talk and arguments.
yeah,
You're not converting
beautiful.
them to Christ. You're
Yeah,
converting them to this eloquence or whatever. So he says
yes,
he comes. Saint Paul is a great hero of mine. He comes with the power of Christ. So it's like the spirit, like that just the life and the force, and just bringing God into contact with the relational thing that we have
yes,
going on here, rather than saying, well, did you know in my book here it says on page 38 da, 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 da. That's not gonna win a soul.
yeah,
So we
no,
have to be
absolutely.
we have to love the truth, but the truth from our perspective is a person. So it's all about relationship, it's all about love.
Hmm.
And so yeah, but it's been great meeting you. I hope you come back again sometime. I've had a
Yeah,
hard time actually getting sort of a diverse diverse points of view, because almost all my guests are either Christian or anti-Christian atheists, and
Yeah.
a few Jews, but they're mostly atheists. I've had a few rabbis on actually, but
Nice.
I want to get more from the East, like more Sikh and Hindu and Buddhist, and so
Yeah.
anyway, you have an open invitation. I hope you come back. And
Thank you. Thank you.
have a great
Will
rest
do.
of your evening. And I'm going to be praying
Thank
for
you.
you and yours. I've already enrolled you in a perpetual mass, you and your family. And so
Thank you.
I don't
Thank
know
you.
what your prayer life is like, but do you pray? Will you pray for me, or how's that work?
I don't I meditate, and I guess that's
Ah,
prayer. That's
okay,
prayer.
okay,
Um,
okay.
but yeah, but otherwise, I do pray to Brahman that you're blessed with anything that you want, and that whatever you want in life, spiritually, that all of that is achieved and attained by yourself.
If your mother or wife or child were sick, would you pray to Brahman or whatever he's called to heal?
Yeah,
Or do you do that? You do that?
yes, yes, I do. I do pray in that sense. Actually,
How would you do that? How would you word that, and what posture do you take?
so actually, it's more like just sitting normally, and it's just chanting, uh,
Okay, you chant.
the name of God that I've been given, the mantra that I've been given.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'll chant that, and what I'll ask for is just strength and acceptance for whatever's going to happen or is happening, because I
Oh.
can't change anything.
Oh.
And if God is going to be merciful, that will happen. If God is not going to choose to be merciful for the right reasons, why should I
Uh-huh.
condemn it and
Uh-huh.
want something that's going to be against that?
You accept the
Uh,
will of God. You accept the will of God no matter what. Yeah.
accept whatever happens. And so yeah, so it's just that prayer for that strength and acceptance, really. Yeah.
Very good. Well, excellent meeting you. I hope you come back and
Thank you.
have yourself a great evening.
Thank you. Thank you.
God bless you.
Take care.
Take care. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Thank you.